Okay, let's call this meeting the Haysville Planning Commission to order. First item of business is a roll call.
Williams, Trube,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Asia,
Here.
Mortensen,
Here.
Rinky,
Here.
Blood.
Here.
I'd like to thank Jared Mortensen for volunteering his time. Welcome back.
Thanks.
I need to ask for a motion to add an agenda item 3B, the minutes of April 9, 2026. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
A motion second to add an agenda item for the minutes of April 9th, 2026. Question?
Trube,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Asia,
Yes.
Mortensen,
Aye.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye.
Now that we're on that item, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Question?
Trube,
Aye.
Coleman,
Yes.
Asia,
Yes.
Mortensen,
Aye.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye.
Now, that should have been 3A.
Yes. That was the minutes of April 23rd.
That was the last meeting.
Yeah,
Then I
so
need to abstain from that.
Blood,
I need to
Asia,
abstain from that.
Rinky, and Trube are all abstaining, but Jared and Debbie,
I'm not.
oh, you were there. Yeah,
It's just us three.
Yeah, it was just
three.
you three are aye, and
Yeah.
then Rinky, Asia, and Trube are abstaining.
Any objections to that?
None.
No.
Okay. So now we'll do April 9th.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve April 9th.
Second.
A motion is second to approve the minutes of April 9th. Question?
Trube,
Um,
do we need to look if you were there?
Yeah, look to see if I was there.
I'm pretty sure I was there, yeah, but aye. Yeah, I was there for that one.
I
Coleman?
don't know if I was there or not.
Okay, I'll put you as abstain. Asia,
Yes.
Mortensen,
Abstain.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Aye.
Now that the difficult part of the meeting is done. No public forum.
None.
Under old business, we have postponed from April 23rd, 2026, the consideration of a home occupation at 414 Peachtree Lane.
So this is for our applicant Bubba's Barbecue, who's operating a food processing business at 414 North Peachtree Lane as a home occupation. They need approval from the planning commission because food processing is not a home occupation that's permitted by right. They have to get special permission from you guys in order to operate. All the surrounding properties are developed with single-family homes and are zoned single-family. There's actually one other home occupation that's about half a mile south, so it wouldn't be the only one in the neighborhood. The applicant has currently been operating within their home, but they've only been selling at farmers markets, so they haven't been required to get a business license or register as a business. They plan to expand their business into e-commerce though, and then also physically expand into an accessory structure in their backyard, plans for which have been submitted to Public Works already. There's also some special regulations that they'll have to comply with at the state level to operate as a licensed food processor. We haven't received any public comment for this, but a public hearing notice was not required. I examined the findings and now I analyzed this case based on the special regulations that we have for all home occupations, and there's just a couple I wanted to point out. The first being that no alteration of the principal building or premises can be made that changes the character or appearance. Their accessory structure is going to be completely behind the house, so I don't see this changing the character or appearance at all. The second one is that no equipment can be used which will create undue noise, vibration, electrical interference, smoke, or particular matter emission, power demands, or odors. So Bubba's Barbecue does smoke peanuts as part of their business, so they will have a pellet smoker. And the smoker is going to give off a bit of odor and smoke, but you won't see a noxious effect or any undue emissions that are excessive. The applicant has stated that their neighbors are aware of the business and seem supportive. They weren't contacted since this isn't a public hearing, but staff has also spoken to code enforcement, and there haven't been any complaints about smoke or smell from this property. And then the final two things I wanted to point out, off-street parking. None should be necessary and none is required. We don't require off-street parking for home occupations. And there's also extra on-street parking on Peachtree Lane. And the last one is deliveries and shipping. The applicant has stated that there's not going to be any excessive traffic for deliveries or shipping that they expect, and staff doesn't foresee this generating any more traffic than our other e-commerce-based home occupations. So staff is recommending approval. Attached, you'll find a letter from the applicant and then also the list of home occupations that we permit by right. Bubba's Barbecue, Ryan Beeler. Yes, Ryan Beeler, the applicant, is here if you guys have any questions.
Any discussion? A motion?
I move we approve the request for home occupation at 414 Peachtree Lane with the recommended provisos and as presented.
I'll second.
The motion second to recommend approved as presented. Question?
True,
Aye.
Coleman,
Yes.
Asia,
Yes.
Mortensen,
Aye.
Rinky,
Aye.
Blood.
Am I loud or no?
Oh yeah, you're good. You don't have a conflict of interest.
Item B under old business, public hearing for a conditional use to request to allow self-service storage warehouse generally located at 7474 South Broadway Avenue. Protect the rights of all parties involved and in order to create an opportunity for everyone to speak their opinions and present information. The Haysville Planning Commission follows a specific procedure in reaching a decision. A copy of this procedure is available by the door. We now formally open the public hearing to consider the proposed conditional use request to allow self-service storage warehouse in the light industrial district. Do any members of the Planning Commission have a conflict of interest in this case?
No.
I do.
You do?
Too close?
You are in the area of notification? Okay. If so, please disqualify yourself from further action in this case, and you may choose to speak as a member of the public, but may not participate in any commission discussion. Have any members received any written or electronic communication in this matter?
No.
Staff received any written or communication?
Only what's in the staff report.
Will you please present?
So our applicant is looking to build a self-service storage warehouse on their property at 7474 South Broadway. It is zoned light industrial and all surrounding properties are zoned light industrial or heavy commercial, so it's a mixed industrial neighborhood. They plan to build this self-service storage warehouse with cargo containers as the storage units, the placement of which is going to require building permits to ensure that they are properly secured and anchored to the ground. Right now, the applicant plans to bring in 94 cargo containers. You'll see that on the site plan that is attached, and each cargo container will be about 8 by 20 feet. And he hopes for them all to be brand new cargo containers that are ivory in color. The public hearing notice was published on April 2nd, and we haven't received any comments. The conditional use is in conformance with our comprehensive plan, and of the criteria that we analyze, there's just a couple I want to point out here, one of them being screening and security fencing. The applicant is required to screen the cargo containers from the view of South Broadway. That's part of our cargo container regulations in the appendix. They can't be visible from the primary street on the property. So this would require installing solid screening along the entire front of the property on South Broadway, the entire north property line, and the first 60 feet of the south property line to make sure you can't see it when you're driving up or down South Broadway. The cargo containers are just over 8 feet in height, so the fence would have to be a minimum of 9 feet tall to a maximum of 10 feet tall in the industrial district. The applicant is requesting an exception from this requirement though. He plans to instead install a chain link fence around the perimeter and have a security gate for access. Screening is not required for self-service storage facilities. It's only required because he wants to use cargo containers. The other one is parking. No off-street parking is required, but they'll have to maintain enough space to get in and between each row of cargo containers. Then we have some other considerations, landscaping. They'll be required to provide just over 1,500 square foot of landscape street yard. This will be 4 shade trees or their equivalent in ornamental trees or shrubbery. There's 1 tree in the fence line that they might be able to be salvageable, but we can't require that the applicant spend more than 10% of their total construction on landscaping, so these calculations may change. They will have to get a business license to operate the self-storage facility if the conditional use is approved. And I also wanted to address the other self-storage facilities in the city. We have 12 that are registered, the majority of which are on South Broadway and West Grand. Nearly half were constructed before the early 1980s when self-storage warehouses were becoming popular. The others we presume were constructed as a result of the tornadoes that went through town. The city made self-storage warehouses a conditional use in 1997, and a new self-storage facility has not been constructed since 2003. For the cargo container aspect for this applicant, there is actually one other storage warehouse that uses cargo containers, but they also have traditionally built units. Based on all of this information, we are recommending approval with 2 conditions. To achieve a harmonious and organized appearance, the cargo containers must all be the same color or grouped in rows or sections by color. The second is that they will be exempt from the screening requirements prescribed in Appendix E, our cargo container regulations. The applicant's here if you guys have any questions, and I can stand for them as well.
Questions for staff?
Nothing here.
No.
Are the applicants or agent present? Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I guess I'm just, what you said, everything, the shipping containers, I'm bringing in new ones. They're not gonna be like some old ratty looking containers out there. They're gonna be nice. Everything will be anchored to the ground. I've got engineering blueprints for that, and there'll be a permanent structure out there. Anyone have any questions for me?
Questions?
Straightforward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's time for any member of the public to speak, if there are any that wish to speak. No questions for the public, hopefully. No response from the applicant about the public comments. Public comment is now closed for planning commission action. The floor is open to commissioners' comments.
None here.
I've got a couple questions. The landscaping requirement would obviously have to take place street side of the fence somewhere, and that is dependent on not only our current code, but also the overall cost of the site can't exceed 10% of that, right?
That's correct.
Hard surface is what I remember from the report that I read, but that can be gravel, is that correct?
There's a hard surface requirement, so asphalt or concrete for the driveway into the property, but everything else can be gravel, an all-weather surface.
All weather surface, okay. And I know that staff suggests that we could have uniform paint color for the containers themselves as a way of subverting the requirement for screened fence. I think the issue that I have is because that requirement comes with shipping containers, if your neighbor wants to add 1 shipping container, we're gonna tell them that they need to have screening to cover that. And my argument for you not doing it somehow is that you have 94, which I think is gonna make it difficult for us to have that conversation with anybody after you that would like one of these. I think from where I sit, it is additional cost, but I think you can still keep the chain link fence, and you can have the slats in the chain link fence to minimize that cost. We're not gonna require you to go to a wood fence if you don't want to, but I think that screening is something that's important for the shipping containers because it's part of the code for the shipping containers. I think if you were doing something else to provide storage units that weren't shipping containers, that wouldn't be a problem and we wouldn't have this discussion, but at least from where I sit, that it makes it's difficult for us to move forward with that as a requirement for shipping containers if somebody that has a full lot of them doesn't have to meet the same requirements as somebody that has one. So, any other questions or discussion?
I see that point, but on the other side of that, I think about security, and having a fence that you can see through really adds to the security when you can drive down the road and see if there's anybody messing with those containers or trying to cut off locks or stuff like that. So
It's a valid point.
it might be better not to have the slats so that you can see, as long as everything looks uniform. I think if we speak to somebody who just wants to add one, say, well, if it's one, but we're talking about setting up a system where they're all uniform, they all look like buildings, and that's why he was able to get around that.
Okay,
And that requirement for shipping containers does not apply to the other types of storage units? It's just shipping containers, is that correct?
I believe that's correct. That requirement is from that code, but
And I think we're thinking about, old shipping containers, we get them from wherever, and they all look a little different, and they look junky. But if you're getting, like the picture here, everything is ivory, that looks
Yeah.
like it could be constructed that way.
Yeah.
It looks intentional, it looks uniform.
Yeah, I mean, is that the problem with it? It's like, okay, they're all corroded and just,
Yeah.
the reason that the
Yeah, you won't cover an
regulations
eyesore.
there. Yeah.
and presumably that's the reason for the secondary requirement that they all be painted to match.
Right.
If it's behind a screen fence, I don't know that I care that they are painted to match. I think that's at some point adding undue burden,
Right.
because if it's screened, you shouldn't have to worry about, the point is not seeing it, so.
Right.
I think
Maybe either or.
yeah, well, I think it'd have to be either or, yeah. More discussion? Anything out of that we need to discuss? I answered a question for you, hopefully I answered it correctly.
I didn't even hear the question, sorry.
You would like to ask again?
No,
Deb?
we'll just go with your answer.
Okay. What was
What I
your-
was asking is, does the requirement regarding the fencing for this, what are they called? The
Shipping containers?
shipping containers, does that only pertain to shipping containers? It does not pertain to other storage units?
We only require this property to have screening because they're using cargo containers. If he was building a regular self-storage facility with normal buildings, they wouldn't have to
Okay.
screen. They don't even have to put up a fence or security gate if they don't want to.
Okay.
And I think the majority of them have it open, because I've driven by plenty of them and I can see right
Oh,
down.
yeah.
And it adds to
Yeah.
security to make sure that, nobody's messing around. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You can add extra lighting for that. Police can drive by and patrol it once in a while. But, if you obscure it, a cop could be driving right by, who's gonna know?
Other discussion? If there's no more discussion, is there a motion?
I'll move to recommend the approval of CON 2026-003, subject to staff's recommended conditions.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff recommendations. Question?
True?
Aye.
Coleman?
Yes.
Asia?
No?
Mortensen?
Yes.
Rinky?
Aye.
Flood?
Abstain?
Item C, postponed from April 23rd, 2026, public hearing to consider amending and restating the zoning regulations.
Do you want me to read the memo or just table?
Staff is asking that it be tabled. Does anyone
Yes.
have an issue with that? Can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll move, we go ahead and table that.
Second?
Table it to June 11th?
Is that next meeting? Yeah, till
Yes.
June 11th.
I have a motion second to table this item until June 11th. Question?
True?
Aye.
Coleman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mortensen?
Aye.
Rinky?
Aye.
Flood?
Aye.
Next item, postponed from April 23rd, annual review of the bike master plan, park master plan.
So the planning commission reviews the park master plan every year, make sure we have good data and information, and consider any proposed changes that the park board has. And the park board did review on March 2nd, and they had a couple of changes to be considered. You have a clean draft and a red line draft. Your options are to approve as presented and adopt the proposed changes, approve with changes and adopt, or deny the proposed changes and keep the 2025 version of the master park plan. I've attached an outline of the changes, most of which are just updating the projects that we've completed in the past year. But we did also adopt a tree planting program. That's a responsibility of the tree board. That was a recommendation from one of our councilmen. I can stand for any questions.
No questions here. Anybody else have questions?
No.
I don't.
Is there a motion?
I move we approve and adopt the proposed changes to the master park plan.
A second.
Have a motion and second to approve and adopt the park plan with changes. Question?
True.
Aye.
Coleman.
Yes.
Asia.
Yes.
Mortensen.
Yes.
Rinky.
Yes.
Lund.
Aye.
Item E, under old business, postponed from April 23rd, annual review of the bike and ped plan.
So the planning commission also reviews the bike and ped plan annually. The park board reviewed on April 6th, and they don't have any changes, but they do recommend that the planning commission switch to reviewing the bike and pedestrian plan biannually, or every 2 years. So you can approve that recommendation, approve the changes, or deny park board's recommendation to change how often this is reviewed.
I move we approve the bike pedestrian plan as presented.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What was the reason for the recommendation?
So, the bike and pedestrian plan is a little bit longer term. It lists out the bike projects in there. The map with the bike projects is in the park plan. It's just a more detailed plan is in that one. So it's usually 2 years before something gets changed in there, that's why.
Okay.
And at this point, we're updating bike paths that get built, which is effectively, we haven't added any new ones that I can think of in a while, but.
Actually, we have.
Which one?
With 63rd up there, that got completed, and then Broadway, that was
Right, but that's
completed.
stuff that was completed that was already in there, not added new bike
Yeah.
paths for the future, that
Yeah.
is what I was talking about.
We have over there on Meridian that will be, getting added, but it won't be complete, so when we update in 2027, it will be updated then, 2028,
Okay.
wrong year.
So when there are new developments and stuff like that that go through, is that reviewed as part of the bike path plan or pedestrian plan within those areas?
If they're adding bike path plan, bike paths,
Potentially.
if they're connecting within the system for the city, some of them, I
Yeah,
guess,
I was gonna say, as
possibly.
part of the review process for that individual plat,
Right.
we would
Yeah.
ask for connectivity if they've got a sidewalk associated with it, which oftentimes they do.
Yeah.
But if it's not close to, we're not gonna require them to take a sidewalk an
Oh.
extra half mile, just, if it's right there, it'll connect in, but
Okay.
is that what you were asking?
Yeah, kind of like, I just want to make sure we're being.
Yeah,
like,
not,
as we
not reviewing it in the
expand-
bike plan doesn't necessarily mean it won't happen as part of the plating process.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're looking at that also, so you'll have the opportunity to see
Agreed.
that.
Sorry, I was confused by your question there.
No, I asked it weird.
Would you like to amend your motion? To include the every 2-year review?
Okay, so amended. I would move that we approve the bike and pedestrian plan as presented, with the exception that we review it every 2 years.
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion? Question?
True.
Aye.
Coleman.
Aye.
Asia.
Yes.
Mortensen.
Aye.
Rinky.
Yes.
Lund.
Aye.
No new business.
None.
Correspondence?
Got a memo. So we've asked you to table the zoning regulations again because there was a new housing bill signed in early April. SB 418, it enacted the By Right Housing Development Act, which was a landmark housing bill intended to streamline the approval process for certain types of housing, address the statewide housing shortages, and promote affordability. And because of this bill, we are gonna have to change some aspects of the zoning regulations, and amend what we've already proposed to amend. This bill goes in effect July 1st, but some of the changes that will have to happen to the zoning regulations are that we have to allow certain single-family, two-family townhouses and accessory dwelling units to be constructed by right without additional approval from the Planning Commission, BZA, or City Council. They have to meet certain standards that we can set in the zoning regulations and that are set in the bill that relate to stormwater, the number of units, public infrastructure, floodplains, and historic designation. We'll have to allow single-family, two-family, and townhouses to be permitted by right in all districts that allow any type of residential use. So that's all of our single-family, all of our residential zoning districts, and our 2 proposed mixed-use districts. We'll have to allow a minimum lot size of 3,000 square foot for all single-family homes, two-family homes, and townhouses with a floor area less than 2,500 square foot, and that doesn't include garages or basements. And I've attached a map to this memo because I wanted to point out that of our single-family and two-family homes, 99% of them are less than 2,500 square feet. There are only 20 that are bigger than that. The 4th change is that we have to include application denial timeline procedures. So when we get a building permit for a single-family home, a two-family home, or a townhouse, or an ADU, we have to deny those within 30 days. If we get a small plat for one of those developments, we have to deny within 60 days. And a large plat for those developments need to be denied within 90 days. If not denied within those timeframes, they're just approved. They're deemed approved. And the last change is that we need to clarify that protest petitions don't apply to owner-initiated rezonings to a single-family or two-family zoning district. We're still working on putting these changes into the zoning regulations, but I can stand for any questions.
Yeah, I think at this point, we'll have plenty of time to discuss it at the next meeting, but anybody else have anything urgent they wanna, or questions? Okay, thank you. Next meeting date off agenda,
June 11th, 2026.
item 9.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn, question?
True.
Aye.
Coleman.
Yes.
Asia.
Yes,
Mortensen.
Yes.
Rinky.
Yep.
Flood.
Aye.
thank you, everybody.